In this video for OpenBuildings Designer Connect Edition HVAC modeling, we'll take a look at the property panel and context menu options that are available for us in the property panel for our various mechanical components. So I'm in my model here. I'll get zoomed in where I have some round ductwork down here. I'll change my display style to modeling mechanical. Notice how that makes all the references like transparent, and they've got that gray line, and my mechanical components are also transparent, but I see the color of the components, that outline of the components of that blue color I can see for my supply ductwork in this case. In the ribbon, I'll come up to the mechanical tab, come to the Duct Accessory tool for this example, and I'll choose the duct fitting round segment and bend. So my property panel over here, here are our catalog items. Don't forget, we can search in here. I'll search for bend and expand my round duct fittings. Notice there's a recently used list in here. And here's the one I'll use, the duct fitting round segment and bend. See the preview of it? And I will turn off the ACS plane lock, ACS plane snap lock. I have part family orientation size shape. I'm not using the base offset right now because I'm just going to snap on to the components that I have in the model already. Taking a look at these context menu options in the property panel. So the property panel, we see our various data group properties in different categories. If we scroll down some, throughout the video series, I keep saying, well, I'm going to set my construction phase to new construction. That's just an example of one of the property values. And I do want to turn my shape off up here. So turning the shape off in the ribbon interface. And notice in my segmented bend parameters, one of these options is auto size. And right now it's set to radius. And notice down here we have different settings. We have the radius setting, and we have the radius to diameter ratio setting. So how do those interact with each other? Well, if I open this list here, notice that I get another drop-down arrow once I click on that one. And if I open that list there, I have some options here. I've got the help. I've got set as default auto fitting option. I see where I have radius. I have that rad to die or radius to diameter, and I've got properties. So each of these context menus that we see here will have help for that particular component. So when we choose the help, it will take me right to the help content for that particular component. And now what it shows me here are these properties and what each of those properties controls. For example, the auto size. So I see the radius option says radius to diameter follows changes of radius. And the radius to diameter option says radius follows changes of radius to diameter. So we see in the help here all these other properties. So it's a nice function of the property panel there that we can go right to the help for any particular component that we're modeling, and it helps us understand what all those properties are for those particular components. So I'll just come back to the application here. You see the component there on my cursor. Remember, I've got size turned on up here, so as soon as I snap on, it will match the size of that duct that I've already got in the model. But let's take a look at these other options here. If I set this to radius, and I'll set my radius to 20. So right here, changed my radius to 20. Notice how the radius to diameter option changed there. And I'll put my focus in AccuDraw with an F11 on my keyboard, and I'll do a rotate a couple of times here, RT, just so we can see that radius that is happening there for that segmented bend component. I'll go ahead and left click to accept that placement, and then a right click to go ahead and stop for right now. So that radius options follows changes of the radius property. So setting the radius value will create a bend or elbow with the centerline radius of that value. So that radius that I just placed is 20. Now, if I go back to the tool, Duct Accessory, remember we'll go back to my last catalog item here. I'll just change that so we see it like that up here. If I change this auto size option, again, with the context menu I open up here to radius to diameter, notice the difference there. Now that looks pretty funky. Let me go change the radius to diameter to 5. And note how that really changes. Again, I'll rotate this so easier to see. I did a RW a couple of times there. There we go. So now that radius to diameter auto size option does an equation. It takes the diameter, in this case 8 inches, times that radius to diameter value and equates the centerline radius to that. So in this case, I've got 8-inch diameter, 5 is my radius to diameter ratio, so that gives me my radius of 40. And then you can see how the radius changed over here in the property panel. So as soon as I get snapped on, it'll match that size because I have my size option turned on. In the placement options, I'll go ahead and left click to accept that, and then a right click to end that. Let's take a look at another component and how we can use the context menu options. I'll place an air terminal. So up in the ribbon interface, choose the air terminal tool. Go to my catalog items in the property panel here. I want to get the square ceiling round connection. Again, I'll use the search functionality here. Square ceiling round connection, square diffuser top. If I choose it, you see the preview. There it is on my cursor. Let's look at our settings. I'll turn off part family, orientation, size, and shape. And this time I'll do an offset. And I'll just offset it 10 feet. Make sure my locks are turned on. And if we look at the property panel for the context menu options here, I'll come down to my diffuser parameters. And again, we see this auto size property here. Notice what it's saying, mesh 4, V4, 4-way. It's grayed out. So how do I change that? Well, again, we use that menu option. Click on there, choose auto size options. Now I've got these options for the grill. So I'll set my grill type to 4-way. And my spacing, number of horizontal slots and vertical slots, I've got that set to 5. That looks good. And then the thickness of the grill, I've got set to a 1/2 inch. And if I go ahead and say OK here, so notice when we change the grill type, it'll change which one of these we're setting. So for example, if I were to set it to mesh, then I could change the mesh options here. Notice the preview right now is showing me mesh over there. So let me change this to 4-way. Again, we see our options here. Go ahead and say OK. And we can see in the preview over here and on the air terminal that's on the cursor, how that affects it. So I'll go ahead and place this just out in the model out here. I'll place a couple of them. And take a look in view 1 here. So here's the ones I just placed right here. So again, context menu options for the various components. If I go back to the air terminal, let's take a look at one more. Again, don't forget about the help. So auto size, if I just come down here, I can choose the help. That will open me up right to the help. And then I see my auto size options here, what all I can set and what it controls as far as the configuration of that component. I've got my practice workbook that goes along with these videos, and just wanted to show here all the different options and which components have that particular option. So we see the auto size option we've looked at. We saw that we had it for the diffuser, and then we see these other options. So there are several, and you can, again, go to the help to understand what those options are controlling. We see the radius or radius to diameter, our segmented band example we were showing in the video. So context menu options in the property panel. Thanks for watching.
If you found this video helpful, please give it a like. If you want to see more such series, consider subscribing to our channel. Thank you, and see you next time.